What's up, everyone? On this episode, I'm going to dive into the details of what it really took to build the MUSEROAMER. From a detailed breakdown of costs and expenses, to how we work with brands, to what additional resources it took to bring this dream to reality. So if you're seriously considering building an expedition vehicle of your own, you'll have a pretty good idea of what it takes after this. Okay, let's get to it.
We set off to build the expedition vehicle of my dreams from the ground up with a $30,000 budget. We documented every aspect of the build from the design process to all the hardships along the way. To be honest, this was one of the most challenging projects of my entire life, but the final product exceeded my wildest dreams. Watch as we build an incredible vehicle for Season 3 of the Tiny Home Adventure series. This is the MUSEROAMER Project.
So this all started for me years ago when I saw the EarthRoamer platform. I'd lived in a truck camper, which was really comfortable, but couldn't really get off-road. I lived in a 4x4 van that was very off-road capable, but really not a long-term living situation. I can't forget to mention the Volkswagen Golf and Astrovan. So I was looking for something that was the highest level of comfort and also could get us to anywhere that we wanted to go. Also bringing Ashley and Kicker on, living in a space for 2 people, long-term, plus a dog. We needed something that was more than just a van, and I wanted something that I could bring all of my gear with. So after daydreaming about this concept for the last 5 or 6 years, knowing that the $500,000+ EarthRoamer price point was so far outside of anything that I'll ever be able to afford, most likely, I decided to build it. It kind of came as an impulse. I had just finished editing Season 2 of the Tiny Home Adventure, which was a mountain of work, and 2 days later I bought the base vehicle for this. It's a 2004 Ford F550 4-wheel drive with the 6.0 engine. It had 100,000 miles on it and was super clean. So the truck cost me $12,000 from a used dealership. I was able to sell the bed off of it, the tires, the bumper, and we gained about $2,000, so we're in the truck about $10,000. I should say we started off with a budget of $30,000. That was including the truck, and that was more money than I had spent on anything in my life by almost double. But you know, work had been pretty good. I'd been living very frugally, and I saved up some money, and this was going to bring my career in theory to the next level, so that's why we invested what we did into it. The $30,000 budget was very ambitious, and I knew that, and I knew it was probably going to go over, but I was hoping that we'd be able to stay ballpark in the area. A few other resources I'd like to talk about was the shop we had to work out of, and a couple friends and brand relationships. So the biggest thing was having a shop. My friend Josh, he is such a high-level builder, has this shop that he had built years ago, and he sort of invited us to work on the Season 2 van in his shop. And I was like, I don't want to impose. And then I was like, dude, I'm going to try and build an EarthRoamer. Are you in? And he's like, yeah, totally. And I told him it was going to be 2 months, and I think he knew better, but he still said, hey, come on, I'll show you what's going on. I'll help you out. And so we moved into Josh's shop, which was amazing. He has all the tools that I would ever dream of needing, and he has an incredibly vast skill set where he can creative problem solve anything, he can build any system. So when I ran into roadblocks, I could lean on Josh, or if there was something that was just so far outside of my wheelhouse, or if it's something that Josh wanted to do, he lent a hand. I also had a friend, Mark, who's an engineer. I showed him my first drawing, my first plan for this thing, and he kind of just looked at me and laughed, and he said, let me help you out. So we worked through several revisions of the design process. Initially, we had sent a design to a fiberglass manufacturer out in Wyoming who ended up not being able to actually complete the task after 4 months of waiting on him. So then we pivoted, in the first vision of the build evolved throughout the entire process to something that I could have never imagined pulling off, and I've been blown away by, really one of the things I'm most proud of at this project is the high-level creative problem solving and thinking. We spent so much time just measuring and thinking and making sure everything was going to open and close and interface properly. and I love the way it turned out. And it was hundreds of hours of just sitting and thinking and doing math and planning and kind of figuring everything out. And yeah, it turned out really great. So another way that I was able to pull this off is I'm a full-time athlete and content creator. I've built relationships with brands over the last 10 years. Brands don't just give things to people. You know, people say, oh, this brand just donated this brand just gave you that. Typically, there needs to be a return on investment. And the way I'm able to leverage what I'm doing and build that return on investment is by creating photo and video assets, as well as some brand integration, some brand awareness stuff along the way. So we were able to reach out and offset some costs and get a lot nicer appliances and fixtures and lights and just things on the truck that I would have never paid for out of pocket just because I don't have that kind of money. And but it's great to be able to create these relationships with brands so that we could offset some of the costs, which really made this whole thing possible. There's no way I could have afforded this with my current bank account without being able to work with some brands to help offset some of those costs. If you are considering approaching brands, I highly recommend reaching out with a complete thought saying, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, this is what I'm doing, and this is what you're gonna get in return, and this is what I'm asking for. So you really need to, when you're reaching out to brands, just have a complete thought. Know what you're talking about, know what they're gonna get in return, and you'll have a lot higher success rate than just saying, hey, I'm building a cool truck, give me stuff. That's my advice for that. So when I set off for this project, I thought it was gonna be about 2 months of 16+ hour days, 7 days a week, and hopefully around a $30,000 budget. And at a certain point, something changed. We decided that we were gonna take this thing as absolutely far as we possibly could. You know, our deadlines, we were already 6 months into it and we barely had a structure. So my internal deadlines were already shot, and I sort of just said, screw it, we're gonna build this thing to the best of my ability, which ended up making it exponentially more expensive and taking multiple times longer. So I think there would be a way to do this, something similar for about $30,000. You know, you would have to skip the paint job, you know, some of the crazy lights and some of the boxes that we had built, but you could definitely build a structure on a F550 for about 30 grand. But like I said, you'd have to compromise. There's always compromise. So that all being said, us taking it as far as we possibly could, all in all, we spent $60,000 out of pocket. That's not including the 10 that was given to us by brands, an additional 60 for materials, for labor, for fabrication, for all that stuff. So if you were to have no brand relationships, no interest in working with brands or offsetting your costs, and taking it to this level, it would have cost probably about $120,000 to $130,000 to build this. That's crazy to say for me. I've never spent, you know, this kind of money on anything before, but hopefully it's a good investment down the road. And I think if you were to add my labor cost, if I were to pay myself a decent wage throughout this and pay Josh and pay Mark, you'd be looking at easily an additional $120,000 in labor alone, since we just did the work. And you know, I did my best to compensate my friends the best I could, and I did end up giving Josh a little bit of money and just kind of trying to make it worth everyone's time. Yeah, this vehicle as is, I would not sell for less than $250,000. But I would probably not sell it for at least a year because of just the amount of time that went into it. You know, it took us 20 months of some of the hardest work I've ever done, and it's time that we actually get to enjoy it. Now we're dealing with the coronavirus stuff right now. I broke my leg 6 weeks ago. It's not going well, but we are super excited to get through all this and actually get on the road. So some final thoughts. It could be done for less. It could be done much, much more cost effectively. It could be done without the super nice appliances, without the paint job, without the wrap, without, you know, some of the extra 4-wheel drive stuff that we're going to be adding to it. To be honest, I probably would not have done it if I'd known how much sacrifice and how much time and energy it was gonna take. But we got it done. And I can tell you, like 6 months into it, I had my face in my hands in tears, asking myself, what the hell did I just do to myself? Because I was already so financially invested and all this time, and I had promised stuff to brands, and we had some brands that had given us some money. I mean, this took, almost 2 years of my life dedicated to this project to make it happen. And although we are so happy with the way it turned out, and it's a really nice home, and Ashley Kicker and I love it, it was still so much work. I have a lot of college kids reaching out saying, hey man, as soon as I graduate, I'm gonna build something like this. And I want people to chase their dreams. I want people to take it further than I've ever dreamed of. But I would recommend, if you're just getting out of college and you're in debt and you don't have an abundance of free time and resources or a great shop or whatever it may be, I would recommend buying a truck camper and remodeling it. That's where I started. That's where season 1 of the Tiny Home Adventure started. That's how my whole full-time creator career started. And it was a ton of work, and it was more work than I expected it to be, but it was a great place to start. And I think it's totally accessible for most people out there to find an older truck camper for relatively cheap and build it out the way that they want. All in all, we are so happy with the way this turned out. I know every square inch of this thing, every bolt, every nut, every screw, every wire that went into it. And, that there's something to be said for that. We optimized the space for what we're looking to do with it. There's no dead space. Everything's insulated and everything has a place and a purpose. And, so there you have it. That's sort of what I have for you. I am releasing the build sheet, which will have a detailed breakdown of our costs, materials used, links to everything, tips and tricks, things I learned along the way. So if you're interested, you can find that in a link below. This stuff takes tens and tens, probably hundreds of hours to assemble as far as the back end work. So there will be a fee for that. I haven't quite decided what that will be yet, but if you're interested, let me know. Also leave a comment if there's something here that I missed that you would like a little bit more detail on. I'm going to be doing more of these videos along the way on the road. The next one will be what I would have done differently as far as the construction process, as far as the interior, as far as any issues that we've run into. So if you found this content at all informative or entertaining or anything like that, do me a huge favor, like, comment, share, make sure you're subscribed. We've got lots of awesome content on the way. Season 3 of the Tiny Home Adventures is about to start releasing, so thank you so much for following along. I really hope this was helpful, and I hope to see you guys on the road. See you!
If you would like us to continue to be able to release content weekly, consider becoming part of the team and joining our Patreon. I'm also offering coaching for projects like this, and I'll eventually be offering a complete blueprint of our build, which is likely to save you over 100 hours of sourcing components and creative problem solving. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to keep up with our most recent adventures, make sure to follow us on Instagram. Massive thank you to the friends and brands who made this dream possible. If you have any questions, we would love to answer them. If you found this at all entertaining or informative, we would love it if you could please share and subscribe. Thanks for watching.